Okay, so good morning. Today's daf is daf Samach Gimel and Gittin. We are at effectively the two dots near the bottom of Samach Bet Amabet. Really, we're starting with the beginning of the fourth to last line. We're starting with the beginning of the fourth to last line on Samach Bet Amabet. I'm going to share my screen and we are ready to get going. So yesterday we began the sixth chapter of Gittin, which thankfully returns us to the topic of Gittin, which is nice because it's Maseches Gittin. So, and our Mishnah at the top of Daf Samach Bet Amabet dealt with the appointment of agents to deliver or receive a get. Yesterday, we concluded with two proofs that a woman may serve as an agent to deliver a get. As we pick up at the start of the fourth to last line of the Gemara, we discuss a case where the agent does not accurately convey the role assigned by the wife. Okay, so that's where we're up to. So Itmar, Hava legiti, the wife says that Hava legitmi, go bring me my get, implying that that the get should not be valid until it is received by the wife. So that's number one. Then two, all right, but what ends up happening? And then what does the agent say? The ishtacha amra hiskaba ligiti. Your wife said to me, accept for me my get. Well, that implies that the wife had said that she wants the get to be accepted right away as soon as it goes into the agent's hand. There will be Rashi, but right now, have you ever played the game of telephone where somebody whispers something into your ear and then you need to tell the next person? So that's what we're dealing with here. So we're dealing with the first person gets told something and then that person tells the wrong message. Yeah, exactly. Uh-oh is right. And so, and what does the husband now say? He doesn't say, okay, sir, you can accept this on my wife's behalf. He does not say, okay, you can deliver this to my wife, but rather he says, whatever my wife said, that's what you should do. Vahu amar helech kamasha amra. Take it the way she said. Well, the problem is that if in fact, do we say that we follow what the messenger said she said, or do we follow what she actually said, right? The husband said to the messenger, you should do what the wife said. But did he mean you should do what you told me she said? Or does he mean you should do what she actually said? Which was his intention? What does he mean? So that's the problem. So it's a very confusing situation. And Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Baravua, Amar Rav. So Rav Nachman says in the name of Rav that afilu higia get liyada eina megoreshes. No, even when the get gets to the hand of the wife, she's not divorced, because you need a valid transmission. You need the Torah says that you need to put it in her hand, and if you have something interrupting that, right? V'nasan biyada. If you have something interrupting that, it's not going to be a good divorce. It's not going to be a valid get. And that's what we have here. Because this woman, the messenger of the wife has messed up their role. The husband has not effectively created a new role for the person. And so as a result, because of the confusion, Rav Nachman says it's not a good get. So we're now going to ask four questions. It's like just like Pesach was not Pesach. Okay, we're going to ask four questions. The first of the questions is going to see, can we say something about what Rav Nachman must think based on his statement? So, Shma mina adibura didei kasamach. Doesn't this teach that we follow the word of the agent? Meaning that the whole problem is adibura dida kasama, because if you were going to rely on the wife's actual words, right? She said, bring me my get, meaning that the get is going to be effective when it gets into her hand. So, mikimati gita liyada mia tigarish. Well, then in that case, she should be divorced at that particular time. So since we're not relying on the wife's words, we're clearly not relying on the wife's words, must be that we're relying on the agent's words. And the problem is that the husband can't appoint the woman as an agent for acceptance. And so as a result, it's not valid. But the Ravashi says that's not a good proof, because Hachi Hashta, are these cases comparable as we turn to Samach Gimel Amud Aleph? So Bishlama Itmar Ibcha, it would make sense if that we had the opposite case. If the following, Hiskabali Giti, if the woman says to the agent, accept for me a get, the Ishtacha Amra Haveli Giti, and then the agent says, your wife said to me that I should bring her the get. V'hu Amar Halach Kamasha Amra, and then the husband says, listen, do what she told you. So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, Amar Rav, Keven Shehigia get liyado megareshes. So if in fact she had said, Rav Nachman had said in the name of Rabba, in the name of Rav, that when the get got to her hand, it was effective. Well, then Alma Adi Buradi who come sama. Then we would know that it would be that it's dependent on, meaning as if we would say that as soon as the get reaches the agent's hand, it becomes a divorce, then we would know that we would follow the wife's words, because the wife said, except for me, meaning that as soon as the get gets into the hand of the agent, it should be as if it was in her own hand. And the agent said, no, your wife told me to bring her the get, meaning that the get won't be effective until it gets to the wife. And if we said that as soon as it goes to the agent's hands, so then we have an answer to our question in one direction. We would know that what matters is what the wife says. Inami liyada, or if you told me that in fact it wasn't effective until it actually got to the wife's hands, well then adi buradi day kasamak. Then we would know that we were relying on the agent's words, and that is who the husband intended when he said you should do what the wife told you, meaning you should do what you told me the wife told you. Elahaka, but here, mishum de akre shliach l'shlichu seila gamrihu. In this case, the agent has completely uprooted the agency. They have not said what they're being appointed. De amar shliach l'kabbalah havena. Lahalacha lo havina. She said, I am an agent for acceptance, not an agent for bringing. And so as a result, you can't undo that. There's the situation here totally nullified the original agency. And the husband doesn't help, because nothing the husband says can enable the woman to now be an agent, because the agency is gone.
Does it matter that it's a woman?
No. It's in fact in the language here, it's assuming that the shliach is male. So okay. So Rav Huna. So that was question number one. We tried to learn something from the statement. We are unsuccessful. Now we're going to try 3 times to challenge the underlying statement, and all 3 times we will fail. So let's take a look, and we're going to get started. So question number 2 of our 4 questions. So Rav Huna bar Chia Tashma. Look at our Mishnah. Ha'omer hiskabel get zedli ishti. If somebody says, accept get for my wife. Oh, holich get zedli ishti, or says, take this get to my wife. Ratza lachsor yaksor. If he wants to undo it, he can undo it. So what's the reason that he can undo it? Taimama to ratza. The reason that he can undo it is because he wants to. Hala ratza. If he didn't want to, havi get. It would be a valid get. And when would it be a get? It would be a get when it got to her hands. Vamai habal lav bar shavya shliach lekabalahu. How could he do that when he in fact is telling the woman, telling the agent, that you should accept this get for my wife? That shouldn't be a type of shliach. So if you're going to tell me that even when there's no shliach, it actually works to be a shliach, well then how could Rav say that because the shliach nullified their agency, that there's no shliach. Why not say, listen, don't pretend the woman didn't do anything, right? Pretend the wife didn't say any kind of agency. This person was not an agent. And yet, when the husband says to accept, which the husband doesn't have the power to do, he doesn't have the ability to tell an agent to accept something on behalf of his wife when his wife has not appointed somebody to accept. And so as a result, if in fact and yet we say that that agent has become an agent for the husband to deliver it, and so the husband can undo it until it gets to her hand, but once it gets to her hand, it's a valid get. Why not say the same thing here? Shouldn't this statement from our Mishnah prove that that in fact it should be a good get when it gets to her hand, right? So Ella Amrinan, Kavan Shanasan. So now the Gemara is going to explain what I just said. Ella Amrinan, Kavan Shanasan Einav Lagarsha. Since the husband wants to divorce his wife, so Meimar Amar will say Tigarish Kol Hechid de Megarsha. However she's going to get divorced, that's how I want her to be divorced. So Hachanami. So here too in Rav Nachman's case, Kavan Shanasan Einav Lagarsha. He wants to divorce his wife. So Meimar Amar Tigarish Kol Hechid de Megarsha. Let us assume that what he means is whatever statement should be made in order to have her be divorced. So the Gemara answers no. Hachihashta, these cases aren't comparable. Hasam Adam Yodea She'ein Shlichus LeKabbalah. A man knows deep down that he lacks the ability to appoint an agent to receive the get on behalf of his wife, because it's not necessarily a good thing for the wife. And so as a result, he doesn't have the ability to appoint somebody to accept something for her. And so the Gamar B'Nasan L'Shem Halacha. And so as a result, we're going to say that when he says accept, he really means to deliver it. But here, there's a total mistake. There's a total lack of understanding of the factual situation. And so as a result, we can't have that there's a valid get, because the husband thinks that the agent is doing one thing and the agent is actually appointed to do something else. And so there's no meeting of the minds in connection with it. So the husband doesn't have the ability to create the necessary intention. So no contradiction. Rav Nachman's statement can still be valid and be consistent with our Mishnah. So Amarava Tashma, how about the following? We have a Mishnah that is on Daf Samach Hey Amud Aleph. So we'll see it, God willing, in 2 days later this week. So what's get said? Katana Sha'amra Hiskabali Gittin. A minor tells an agent to accept a get for her. Now, of course, she doesn't have the ability to do that because she's a minor. Eino get ad sheyagia get liyada. The get, even though she wanted the agent to accept it, so that as soon as it gets into the agent's hands, it should be a valid get. We say, no, it's only a get when it gets to her hands. So kimata gita liyada miya gumegarsha. How could it be a valid get when it gets to her hands? The husband didn't explicitly appoint this agent to serve as the agent for delivery. Ella Amrinan, Kevan Shanasan Einan Lagarsha, Meimar Amar Tigarish Kol Hechid de Megarsha. We have this principle that the husband wants to divorce the wife no matter what. So now we've got an even better case that's even more analogous to our situation, where the agent says the wrong thing. Because here the wife attempted to make an agent, and the agent wasn't a successful agent. So as a result, it's the same thing. Both cases involve an effort to make an agent, and the agency was not successful. And yet, in this situation, we say that when the get gets to her hand, it's a valid get. And in the other situation, we say that it's not a valid get. So, Hachanami, Kevan Shanasan Einav Lagarsha, should here also in Rav Nachman's case, shouldn't we say that since he wants to divorce his wife, Meimar Amar Tigarish Kol Heka de Megarsha, we should let him divorce her however it takes to divorce her? Well, again, Hachi Hashta, it's not comparable. Hasam Adam Yodea She'ein Shlichuso shlichus lekatan. So the husband knows deep down that in fact there's no agency for a minor, and he knows the age of his wife, and he knows that she's not an adult yet. And so v'gamer v'nasan law l'shum halacha didei. And so as a result, we're going to just assume that when he gives the get to the agent, he's giving it to the agent with the emphasis on delivering it. So hakatoi, but in the case of Rav Nachman, there's just a plain mistake. There's no meeting of the minds, and so as a result, we have a problem. Okay, so that is the effort number 3. That is question number 3, and effort number 2 to undo Rav Nachman's statement, but it again is unsuccessful. So effort number 3 to undo it. Effort question number 4, Tashma Havele Giti. So we have a brisa. That's where the wife says, "Bring me my get," meaning that she's appointing somebody as her agent to deliver it, not that it goes not, and so it only becomes a valid get when she receives it. The Ishtacha Amra, what? She's well, we're going to see. We're going to find out. Haveli Giti. She says Haveli Giti. So she says to bring me. So that's that. So that's that is that's a statement of halicha, not of acceptance. And so as a result, she's intending that she's only going to get the get right when she gets it to her hand. The ishtacha, now what does the agent say? The ishtacha amra hiskabel giti, and the agent gets it mistaken and says, "Accept for me the get," or hiskabel giti. The wife says to accept the get. The ishtacha amra haveli giti. So we're going now. We're making a statement that it doesn't make a difference which mistake we're talking about. Either way, either the wife said to bring it and the agent said accept, or the wife said accept and the agent said bring. So v'hu amar, and the husband says holech v'teinla, take it and give it to her. Zechila, or he says acquire it for her, or v'hiskabela, or accept it for her. Ratza lachzor yaxor. If he wants to, he can undo it until it gets to her hand. But mishahigia get liyada migoreshet. But once it gets to her hand, she is divorced. So this really seems to contradict Rav Nachman, because the only difference between this and Rav Nachman is that Rav Nachman said that you should do what my wife said, and here he could be using words that are exactly like the wife or exactly like the agent. So my lav Kabbalah Kabbalah. So when we the problem with the structure of this brisa is the fact that it's unclear when the husband when we say at the end of the brisa that the husband says to take it and give it to her, or the husband says to acquire it for her, or the husband says to accept it for her. It is unclear to which of the initial situations, which of those first two situations is being talked about. Are we saying Kabbalah when the wife says accept? We're talking about where the husband's statement matches the agent's statement, right? If the husband's statement matches the agent's statement, then that's and yet we say that it doesn't. That even though in the first case where the wife says to bring it, and the husband and the agent says I'm going to accept it, and then the husband says yes, you should accept it. And we say that the get is not a valid get until it comes to her hand. So that shows that we're following what the wife said. And so shouldn't this be a contradiction to Rav Nachman and say that we should say that it only is a valid get when it gets to her hand, even though the husband was thinking that he was matching what the agent was saying? So the Gemara and the halacha, and when we said in the case that the agent said that the agent was there to bring the get to the wife, the husband says yes, take the get to the wife. So the Gemara, and therefore again, this would refute not Rav Nachman's ruling, and because we're saying that when the get gets to the wife, it's valid, and Rav Nachman said it's not valid. So no, Kabbalah aholacha. We could be dealing with a situation where this brisa is actually talking about where the husband's response contradicts the agent's. So therefore, it's not like the case of it's not like the case of Rav Nachman. In the case of Rav Nachman, the husband was confirming what the agent was saying, because he's saying, do what my wife told you. But here we're saying that what? That's exactly, those were the words that he used in Rav Nachman's case. He said, do what my wife told you. Yes, but at least what he was told his wife said is what he's repeating back right here. So I actually agree with you that I think that the Gemara could have answered, right? The Gemara could have answered, what are you talking about? It's a completely different situation. We could have used the same hachi hashta that we used a few moments ago to say, that in that situation there's no, there's no agreement. And here he's at least either saying what his wife said, or he's giving a new command. So it should be a valid situation. But I totally take that. Correct. Agreed. But the Gemara chooses not to answer that. It chooses, in some ways, a stronger answer to say that actually you don't even have to understand the brisa that way. So, and Kabbalah ahalacha v'halacha Kabbalah, right? So lo Kabbalah ahalacha v'halacha Kabbalah. So and Kabbalah ahalacha. If the husband says accept, to the person who says that they're supposed to deliver, mikimati gita liyade la alter lahabe gita. Well, 1 second. Okay, so you want to say that this is that this all makes sense, but if in fact the husband tells the agent to accept it when the agent said that they're there to deliver, and the wife actually said accept, shouldn't the get be a valid get as soon as it gets into the wife's hands? So, right, so gita liyade la alter lahabe gita. It should mikimate gita liyade. You said that the get is a valid get when it gets into the wife's hand, but it should be a valid get as soon as it gets into the agent's hands. So shamat mina. So shouldn't we learn from that the adibura didei kasamach, that the husband is relying on the words of the agent and not the wife? All right. And so hachi hashda, 1 second, again, is this case actually comparable? Hasam ka'amra le halach kamasha amra. And so actually we do get effectively to this result, right? To the result that you were looking at, James. But the point is we want to add in another layer of questioning, of saying, oh, maybe we could use this as a proof to say that we're relying on the word of the agent and not the word of the husband. But we can't do that because Hasam ka'amra le halach kamasha amra, right? Here, in the case of where we said, that, if Rav Nachman had dealt with the opposite case, we would know what Rav Nachman would actually think. But here, even though the case appears to be the opposite case, in that earlier case, the husband was telling the agent to do what he was saying, what the agent was saying. But here the agent didn't say to do what you said. The agent said to accept what the messenger had said to deliver. And so the problem is that given the fact that those don't match, the husband doesn't know that he has the ability, that he could actually confirm what the wife is saying. And so as a result, there's not a matching of the language along the lines that you were suggesting, James. The point is that in the case of Rav Nachman's situation, there was uncertainty and about what was meant But here, there's no uncertainty. He's literally contradicting what the agent said. And so as a result, it can't mean that he means to accept. It must mean that he means to deliver. All right. So those are our four questions, 3 efforts to contradict Rav Nachman. None of them are successful. Okay. So now the Gemara is going to quote and question another brisa that talks about take and acquire. So Tana Rabbanan, we got a brisa. Hiskaba ligiti, except for me again. The Ishtacha Amra Hiskaba ligiti. Well, good news, we finally get an agent who's actually telling the message correctly. So Vahu Omer, and now the husband says, Holech v'tainla. So again, the husband doesn't say that you should accept it. He says, no, take it and give it to her. Zechila, or he says, accept it. The hiskabela, or he says, acquire it, or he says, accept it. Ratza laxor, lo yaxor. In each of these situations, even if he says holech, even if he says to deliver it, he's not able to retract because the wife has successfully created the agency. The agency is for acceptance. The agent has successfully told the husband what the agent is there for. And the husband has not explicitly rejected what the agent has said. And so therefore he can't undo it. It's a get as soon as it goes into the agent's hands. Correct, according to the Tanna Kama. Rabbi Nosson Omer, Rabbi Nosson says no. Holech v'tainla, when in that first situation where the husband actually uses language of be a messenger, don't accept it. So then Ratza Laxar Yaxar. If the husband says that you should take it to her, then he can undo it. But Zechila of his Kabbalah, but if he says to acquire it or to accept it, well then Ratza Laxar Lo Yaxar. He can't undo it because he was confirming the agent's agency. I should say it that way. Okay. So and Rebbe Omer, now third opinion in our brisa, Rebbe says B'chulan im ratza lachzor lo yachzor. In all of the cases, he cannot undo it. Aval im amar lo efshi shetekabela ela holech v'tein ratza lachzor yachzor. If, however, he says, I don't want you to accept it, I want you to bring it, and only then will it be undone. So the Gemara now asks the obvious question. What's the difference between Rebbe and the Tanna Kama? Rebbe Hainu Tanna Kama. So 2 possible answers. Maybe he's teaching us that in fact the language of I don't want you to do your original job is sufficient to undo it, and that's something that the Tanna Kama didn't teach us. The Ibayzema Hakamash Malan Man Tanna Kama Rebbe, or it could be that we're just learning from this. Who is the Tanna Kama? It's Rebbe. So those are the 2 possibilities. But now we're going to ask a question. Now that we've got this background and we have these 3 viewpoints, one of the viewpoints says that a simple statement by the husband that contradicts the agent is sufficient to undermine the original agency. What if we have, and we had a direct contradiction because the husband said holech and the agent and the wife had said hiskabel or zechi. So therefore, we got a complete conflict between the 2. What if the husband doesn't say something that is so directly contradictory, but rather uses a language of halach, which means just this get is for you. This is for you. There's no implication of what the person's supposed to do with it, whether it's supposed to be for acceptance or whether it's supposed to be for delivery. So given that a lack of clarity, do we say that according to Rabbi Natan, that's enough to undo it? Because in fact, the husband is not confirming the wife's agency? Or do we say that no, it is sufficient, and so as a result, it's fine? So Ibailahu, Halech LeRabbi Natan, according to Rabbi Natan, who says the language of the husband can undo the agency of the agent. So do we say, if he were to say Halach, So kizachi dummy, do we say that it is like him saying that she should take it and acquire it, that the agent should take it and acquire it? Olav kizachi dummy, or do we say it's not? So we're going to do 3 efforts. 2 are going to be unsuccessful, but the 3rd effort will be successful. So let's take a look. So effort number 1, Tashma ha'omer hiskabel get zet liishti, that the husband says that you should accept this get for my wife. Oh, holik gets liishti, or you should take this wife get to the wife. Ratzalach so yaso, he can undo it because again in both those situations he's able to retract. Ha'isha sha'omer hiskabel ligiti, but if the wife says that you should that the agent should accept the get for her, Ratzalach or lo yaso, then he has no ability to undo it. So when the wife said that the agent should accept it, and we say that the husband lacks an ability to retract, what are we talking about? So now we turn to Sama Gimel on the bet. My love, behelach. Isn't this the Rebbe Natan? Isn't this it must not this be a case of halach according to Rebbe Natan? Meaning, if it were zechi, then of course it's true. We wouldn't need to teach it. And if it were holech, Rebbe Natan would disagree. And he would say that if the husband had said holech to this agent who was told by the wife to accept it, that wouldn't be a valid get because the holech will undermine it. So doesn't this have to be a case of halech? So no, lo beholech v'Rebbe. We don't even have to say that this statement is according, our Mishnah is like Rebbe Natan. We could say our Mishnah is like Rebbe. So question number 2. From a later part of our Mishnah. Tashma, it says in our Mishnah, Lefikachim Amar Lo Haba'al, Shitakabel La, Ella Holech Vatain La, Ratzalach Lachzor Yachzor. The husband says, I don't want you to accept it. And so if you go, so rather take it and give it to her, so then he has the ability to retract it. So Taima de Amar Efshi. Doesn't this show that the only time that the husband has the ability to retract is by him saying efshi, meaning hello amar im efshi. If he didn't say im efshi, so ratzal lachzor lo yachzor, he wouldn't have been able to undo it. What? No, this is completely consistent with Rebbe, and we're going to answer that it's Rebbe, that this could be Rebbe. You're absolutely right. We're just trying to ask, maybe our Mishnah is like Rebbe Natan. And because obviously our desire is for what? Our Mishnah, the Tanakama of our Mishnah is like Rebbe. The desire is always to have everything be according to everybody. And so that's the going in position, and the answer is going to be no. It makes more sense to just say that this is Rebbe. So my la behelech Rebbe Natan, right? Doesn't this again? Shouldn't this be a statement of halech? Because of course, if it was holech, it would Rebbe Natan in the Bryce that we quoted to begin with would tell us it can't be because it wouldn't be a valid get until it got to her. So that doesn't work. So lo beholach Rebbe. So again, we say that it's holach and Rebbe. So that was the first 2 efforts, really not too hard here. So now we again are going to offer a 3rd effort at answering the question of what would the halacha be with halach. And the good news is that we've got a brisa that is very consistent with Rebbe Natan and not anybody else, and it tells us the halacha of halach. So let's take a look. So Tashma, holach etzel ishti. If the person says that you should take the get to my wife, ratzalach or yaxor, he can undo it. But halach etzel ishti. But if he says that this get is for your wife, ratzalach or lo yaxor. If he wants to retract, he cannot retract. Now, given the fact that he can't retract, and given the fact that the husband doesn't have the ability to appoint an agent to receive on behalf of the wife, we must be talking about a situation where the wife has said that to the agent, please accept the get for me. And so we are clearly in that context, and yet holech undoes it, but halech does not undo it. So man shamat lei de amar beholech ratzalach or yaxor. Who is it that says when a person says in response to an agent that is appointed for acceptance that if they say take it to my wife, it allows the person to retract? That's Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan's the one who says that. But Ka'amar behelech, and yet our brisa says that if the person says this gets for you, so Ratzal Achsor Lo Yachsor, he no longer has the ability to do it. So Shma Mina, Helech Kezachi Dami Shma Mina. So in fact, we have now answered the question that if in fact in the Rabbi Natan's case in our brisa, the husband had said Helech instead of Holech, well then the wife would be divorced as soon as the get made it to the agent's hands. Okay. So you have to affirmatively contradict. If you affirmatively contradict, so then it's undone. Okay, so now we are going to look at how do we conclude with respect to this debate between Rebbe and Rabbi Natan. Again, Rabbi Natan says that if there's apparent contradiction, so we'll follow the husband's words. And Rebbe says, no, you need an explicit undoing in order to follow the husband's words. So what happens? So Itmar, hiskabali giti v'ishtaka amra hiskabali giti. So again, everybody is in agreement that the agent is supposed to accept the get. V'hu amar holech v'tainla. And the husband says, no, doesn't say, no, I don't want you to do that. Just says, I want you to deliver it. So Amar Rebbe Abba, Amar Rabbi Huna, Amar Rav. So it's said in the name of Rav. Nasa shlucha ushlucha. This agent is an agent for both of them. So v'choletzes, and you have to do chalitza, meaning that if the husband were to die without any children before the agent made it to the wife, there would need to be chalitza because she isn't definitively divorced yet, because the divorce didn't get into the wife's hands. So even though there's an element of the fact that they're divorced because the agent was appointed to accept, we're not going to reach that conclusion. So it's clear that we must be saying that Rav is uncertain what the halacha is. He's not sure. Is the halacha like Rebbe Natan or the halacha like Rebbe? So he's not sure whether it's like Zachi or it's not. But the problem is we have another statement that makes it sound like he does have a position on this issue, because when it comes to a monetary situation, if I tell somebody to give the money to, if John Doe says to give the money it owes money to Bob, and John says to the agent, to Al, the agent, and he says, listen, I owe money to Bob, give the money to Bob. So Amar, and then what happens? And again, he says holech. So he's telling the person to take the money to Bob. So Amarav chayev ba'acharayuso. So even though we say that Zachan Ladam Shalom Bilfanav, we have Rashi tells us, if we take a look, chayev, it's the second line in the narrow lines on Samach Gimel and Bet, Hamishalech, the one who sent it. So John, who sent the money to Bob, he's going to be responsible because Bob never told John to use Al as his agent. So as a result, even though the money already belongs to Al, because we have Zachan Shalom B'fanav, he doesn't have John didn't have the ability to appoint Al to take responsibility if Al loses the money. So as a result, he's going to be responsible if the money is lost. However, but John doesn't have the ability to undo the agency. As soon as it goes into Al's hand, Al the agent, it is now as if it's already in Bob's hand and he can't retract it. So doesn't this show that holech is kizichi? Because here we have a case where holech results in somebody not being able to retract. Hasam, so now the Gemara answers no. Hasam safek mamona lakula. There we have the principle of when we have, usually we say not safek lamona lakula, but we say hamotzi mechavero alav araya. But here we're saying that once the money goes into the hands of Al, we're not going to take it out of the hands of Al. But hacha safek isur lachumra. But here, because we're dealing with an actual prohibition, then we're going to say that you've got to protect yourself and do chalitza if the husband dies while the agent is taking the get to the wife. So Amar Rav, Ein ha'isha osa shliach lekabel la dita. So Rav said a woman's not able to appoint an agent to accept a get for her. Miyad shliach bala, if it is coming from the hand of the husband's agent. We saw this a few weeks ago, this concept that we can't have two agents in the middle, that if the husband uses an agent, the wife's not allowed to use an agent. And this is the original source for that Gemara that we saw earlier. Rabbi Chanina says, no, Isha osa shliach lekabel gita. She does have the ability to make an agent. Miyad shliach bala, even if the husband has appointed an agent. So my time of the Rav.
She's not divorced at all?
In this situation, yes, she would not be divorced at all. Even if the get eventually gets to her, according to Rav, by using Gittin, the two agents, there's at least there would need to be a new get from some kind of suffix. We're going to see what Rav's rationale is, and there may be a difference based on the rationale as to what the end result would be, is if it actually happened. But my time of the Rav. So we're worried about the husband retracting, that the husband will be embarrassed and disgraced by the fact that the woman has used an agent. Now, that seems a little bit odd because the husband's using the agent. Now, of course, you can just say, well, all Gittin is a lot of emotion involved, and so whatever. But the point is that the husband has appointed an agent. He assumes that the agent is going to deliver it to the wife, and as a result, if the wife uses somebody else, that is not how he set it up. And or the issue is we're concerned about the situation about the courtyard that comes to her possession afterwards. What's that case? That case is the following. If a woman owns property and the husband puts the get in the woman's property, that property can take possession of the get for her. But if the husband puts the get in a third person's property, and then the wife acquires that property, that is not a valid get. Again, it's based on the principle that we mentioned at the beginning of today, that you have to give the get directly to the wife. Her field is considered an extension of her hand.
Just drop it in the field.
In her field.
Right.
But you can't give it to somebody else's field that she acquired. All right. And so as a result, in this situation, it looks a little like the situation of the acquisition from somebody else, because here the husband thought that the husband is putting it in his agent's hand, and the agent is putting it in a new agent's hand, and so it's not going directly to the wife.
A modern process server, you're leaving work, and I'm going to serve you with a subpoena. No, I'm not. The process server, from what I'm told, can just drop it, and that constitutes a valid transaction.
Really? Must be some kind of Dalit Amos kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm told.
Yeah, could be.
I've seen it happen. Like
wow. All right. So my Benaihu, what's the difference between these two positions of Rav? So Ika Benaihu, the Kadma Ihi Bishav Yashliach Mikara. If the wife had appointed the agent already, well, then in the situation with it wouldn't be like the courtyard situation, because it's like her already owning the courtyard, because a wife's agent is considered like her. So if the wife already had the agent, it would be okay. All right. So Hahu Gabra, now some quick cases. No, it's Karka, Bentalfel, her. Well, that would be the issue of whether Kalim can affect acquisitions. There's a debate about that. I'm not sure the answer to that question. So a certain person sent a get to his wife. She saw the agent comes and sees that she's kneading dough. Her hands are all dirty. She doesn't want to accept it. So what does she say? Amrla, heilach gitek. Here's your get, is what the guy says. So Amrale, so she says back to him, let it stay in your hands, meaning you be my agent for receiving it. Okay, so Amar of Nachman im Isala de Rabbi Chanina of the Ba'uvda. If we were to tell me that the halacha is like Rabbi Chanina is the one who says you can have two agents. Well, then I would say it's a good get. But Amrale Rabba says to Rav Nachman, no, I'm not sure you're right. Even if you were to say that the halacha is like Rabbi Chanina, Avda Ba'uvda, you would say that this would be the halacha. Halo chazra shlichus eitzel habal. We have a principle that the agent must always be able to go back to the principal and say to the principal, I have completed your agency, before they take on a new agency. And yet this person, when he becomes the agent of the wife, never had the opportunity to go back to the husband and tell him that he had finished. So shlucha l'kamei. That is the implication of this, although it doesn't. It could be that is a possible implication, but I believe that the point is that it's only when the agencies potentially conflict, which is the case here. Here, he's becoming the agent for the other side, as opposed to an agent for two different people, where in each case he can perform the agency and let the person know before he takes another side. So shlucha l'kamei de Rabbi Ami. So they sent it in front of Rabbi Ami. So shalach lahu, Rabbi Ami sent back lo chazur shlichos eitzel habal, again saying the same principle that Rava asked the question about, and he's concluding he agrees. Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar nisyashiv badavar. When they asked Rabbi Chia bar Abba, he said, I need to think about it. Hadar shlachua kamei de Rabbi Chia bar Abba. So they sent him in the question again. Amar kolhani shalchu la'azlei. Stop bothering me. You keep asking the same question. Ki heiki de misapka lahu ladidhu hakinami misapka ladidan. Just as you are unsure about this in Bavel, so we're unsure about it in Eretz Yisrael. So Havi davar sheba erba. Now, in the end, this is something that is a very serious matter. It's it deals with erva, deals with illegal marital relations. So the davar sheba erba choletza. So, and in that situation, we're always going to be strict and require chalitza. So hava uvda. In fact, there was a case, but atzracha Rav Yitzchak Shmuel bar Marta get chalitza, and so as a result, Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel said we're going to require get and chalitza. Tarti, you need both a new get and you need chalitza. So no, get mechayim, the chalitza la'achar misa. If in fact the guy was still alive, the husband's still alive, so then you send a get. If the husband has died, then you do need chalitza. All right, so that is that case. So okay, so now the Gemara questions: what's the power of the husband to when the husband appoints people to create a get? How powerful is that? Meaning, if they do it once and they make a mistake, is that it? Or if they do it multiple times, but if they do it and they finally get a valid get and the get gets lost, do they have the power to make a new one? So that's what we're going to talk about now. Hahida havu karala nafsa nafasa the azul sahade kasav tifasa. So if the wife's name was Nafasa, but unfortunately the agents wrote Tafasa. So Amar Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Mata Mishmei de Rab. So same person who spoke a few moments ago said in the name of Rab, Asu Edim Shluchasan. The Edim have done what they were asked to do, which is to prepare a get. Yeah, the get wasn't kosher, but that they don't have the power to make another get. So Maskifla Rabba says, 1 second, Mika Amr Lahu Kasuvo Chaspa Vahabula. Did I tell you to write some piece of pottery, a shard of pottery? No, I told you to write a good get. You should do it until you write the good get. Well, Ela Amaraba, Vada Ikasov Sahadigita Ma'al Yava Oven. So it's definitely, they definitely have agency until they write a good get. Asu Adam Shluchasan. Then the agents will have done their duty. But Maskeflo Rav Nachman asks, well, Kikam or Kisku Vanhu B'Chisaivchu. Well, one second, what happens if the guy if somebody loses it, if these witnesses lose the get? That just because they wrote a valid get, that's not enough. They have to actually deliver the get. Ela Amar Rav Nachman, Kosvim and Nosnin, Afilu Me'apamim. They can give the get to an agent to deliver it even up to 100 times. It's until it actually gets delivered. Well, Bamina Rabba, Rav Nachman, what happens if we change the story? Rabba asks, Kisvu utnu lashliach ma. What if I tell what if somebody were to tell the people who are writing the get, listen, write the get and give it to my agent to deliver it. Now they've only been empowered to give it to the agent. What happens if the agent loses it? Do they still have the power to write a new get now that the agent lost it? Saluke saliklahu, did the husband, was the husband trying to say, listen, you only have the power to give it to this agent and that's it. And once you've done that, you don't have the power any longer. Oh, Dilma, he was worried about them having to do too much. And so as a result, he really wants them to handle the entire process. But in fact, that's a story. So, and Amar la Ravina, la Rav Ashi, Ravina qualifies this question. Let's say, and as Rashi explains it, let's say we assume that actually in that case, they lose their power to do anything more because the agent, once they've given it to the agent, they have fulfilled everything that the husband said. But what if they were to say, the yolich lamahu? And what if they were to say, and give it to the agent so that he takes it to my wife? So now he's completed the job. So does that imply that that it's not just about giving it to the agent, but also about getting it actually to the wife? So the Gemara is unsure of that situation. Okay, the bottom line is you want to make sure that you're clear with your agent what the agency is for and what it's not for.
Why do they use two dots there?
Yeah. Because before that, it was all cases. It was clear that each time was building on the prior case. And now we're dealing with effectively a whole new scenario where it's not necessarily building on what happened before. In each of the additional prior cases, we end up saying that the husband has the power to appoint these agents. Now we're creating a new situation where it's the words of the husband are being fulfilled, and is that going to be sufficient? And indeed, the halacha, if we take a look at the way the halacha is that when the husband says to write the get, so that implies write the get, deliver the get, do everything. That is the implication according as we in the end. But in this situation where he says to write the get and deliver it to my agent, so we're going to say it's just delivered to the agent. So as a result, it's going in the opposite direction of the Gemara that's going before. That's my best answer as to why there would be two dots there. And the point is that that's the piece that's going to have the teku associated with it, as opposed to the prior pieces where the building is considered an element of the halachic process making, meaning that the halacha is like the third case of Rav Nachman. The halacha is like Rav Nachman, that in fact the agents, until they get the job done right, they still have their agency.
We started a new topic or a new line of argument a couple of times on this whole document.
Yeah, no, so I don't have anything better than that. Okay, so last little piece, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer Av Homeris Toli Giti. We said in the Mishnah that if the woman says, "Take my get for me," Imratz alaxer lo yaxer, he doesn't have the ability. The husband doesn't have the ability to go back. So Similarly, so Tana Rabbanan, we now are going to deal with all the languages that a woman can use, which will cause the agent to receive the get immediately, and the divorce will take effect as soon as the agent receives the get. So Toli, take it for me. Sali, lift it for me. Vihili, it should be vihili biyadcha. It should be in your hand for me. So Kulan Lashon Kabbalah. All of these are languages of acceptance, and all of them would mean that the woman is divorced immediately. So our next Mishnah, which of course, yes, Hiskabali and is sort of already, that's the case in the Mishnah itself had taught that one. So now we're going to deal with the question of witnesses. With how does the wife prove what evidence is necessary for the wife to prove that what she told her agent? And so for that, stay tuned for tomorrow's daf. Have a great day.
You too, everyone.
It's gonna be,
Later, David.
yeah.
Yeah.